Dr. Wan, ladies and gentlemen, the last time I met with my mentor, he challenged me on the overarching question of the present day. Why the rise of so many militant groups in the Islamic world? What is wrong with the Islamic world? Indeed, it is difficult to put a lot of things that are happening in the Middle East into perspective. Nonetheless, I did so. I've begun to zero in on these vital questions by studying literature on Islamic civilization. My findings are the following. If you ask an average Muslim, he or she is unaware of when their civilization had fallen from its zenith in the 15th century, when Islamic empire ruled from Spain in the west to modern-day India in the east, and when Islamic civilization led the world in education, development, science, and philosophy. It was a civilization on the march. This was the golden period of Islamic civilization under Arab leadership. The history of Muslim Spain is a glorious one, a thriving, multicultural society with scholars translating the great work of the Greeks into Arabic. Islamic civilization welcomed learning at that time. Baghdad, the current-day capital of Iraq, was home to a major university over 1,000 years ago. Later, Islamic civilization entered a period of rapid cataclysmic decline. This was a period when the West, supported by the achievements of Renaissance and the rise of reason in the Enlightenment, overtook the Islamic world in a short period of time. Reflecting on this fall, Islamic thinkers and leaders were polarized on what to do, how to respond. Modernists argued that the Islamic world needed to imitate what had worked for the West. Leaders in Turkey had gone so far as to embrace secularism, declaring Sunday as the day of rest, adopting Western costumes and dress code. For modernists, the key was to study the West, learn its lessons, and adopt them. Yet, from Egypt to Syria to Iraq, modernist leaders failed to deliver progress and restore greatness. These failures led to a search for new answers. Some claimed that Islamic civilization had fallen due to impiety. In this sense, fundamentalists argued that Muslims have abandoned true Islam and that greatness could come only with a return to the faith. Traditionalists, on the other hand, countered by contending that salvation required a blending of both Islam and modernity. In this sense, Islam is important as a matter of personal faith, but society has to be modern in the ways of the world. Managing Islamic civilization, ladies and gentlemen, a debate among modernists, fundamentalists, and traditionalists had unfolded over time. In the later half of the 20th century, fundamentalism did not only prevail, but also became the most dynamic political force in many of the Arab and non-Arab Islamic countries. Just to give you a sense that the countries that fall under modernism include Turkey, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Countries that fall under the school of fundamentalism is Iran, Saudi Arabia, and many of the Gulf states. And countries that fall under the school of traditionalism include Egypt, Syria, Jordan. Ladies and gentlemen, we should not be shy to recognize that our countries in our world are the target of a great civilization dysfunction and fallout. While fundamentalism has utterly failed to deliver, the period between its rise and defeat is going to be long and bloody. We know it is going to be long and bloody because we understand something comparable had happened in the early 20th century. I'm talking about Nazism, imperialism, Marxism, Leninism that resulted in human catastrophe in Europe and violence around the world. In the beginning of the 21st century, the principal source of security problem has shifted to the greater Middle East. These are the facts, ladies and gentlemen, which dominate our world, which dominate the lives of all of us, each and every one of us. Thus, the question is, what is it that we can do, or how do we move forward to secure our future and to secure our countries from the menace of religious fundamentalism is a question that I ask you to think about and answer. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.